Can I be honest here? I have spent way too much of my life trying to be liked. We tend to believe that staying likable will make us successful. What if I told you that actually saying no more often to anything that doesn't uplift your highest good and saying yes to all of the things that bring you pleasure and joy is actually the key to success? This is a podcast for daydreamers, rule breakers, and paradigm shifters who are too weird to live, too rare to die. Here, together, we are changing the narrative. We no longer accept the systems that tell us we can't be ourselves and that we can't have everything we've ever dreamed of. In fact, we can, and we already do. Not in spite of who we truly are, but because of who we truly are. Believing this and living into this truth starts with one important question. How do you embody your highest self? Welcome back to the Embodiment Project. I'm Danellia Arechiga, aka Dane Reál, aka the Multidimensional Mami, and I am overjoyed to be back with you this week. It's been a minute, and I wanted to take some intentional time to catch up with y'all, let you know what's been going on, and let you know about the exciting updates I have to share with you about this podcast and about the way that it's going to be changing. So before I get started with updates, I want to give you a little bit of background for those who are new to the podcast, for those who maybe it's been a minute since they've been here, since they've listened, or since they've been keeping up with me. I'm going to take you back to the very beginning when I first started this podcast during the 2021 pandemic. So having a podcast, creating a podcast, having a platform to share and talk and share bits of my story, but also to hear other people's stories was always very important to me. And during the pandemic, I found myself with plenty of time and space and energy to be able to do that finally. So I started the Embodiment Project, this podcast that you're listening to, in 2021. The very first episode I recorded was with my mom, and it was really important to me at the time to make sure that I got her blessing so that she could understand what I was doing, how I was going to be sharing my history, my story, as well as hers, right? As a descendant of her. And so that to date is one of my most listened to episodes. But from there, I just started interviewing lots of other folks and bringing on lots of guests and tackling lots of different topics that I'm still very passionate about to this day. However, one thing that I rarely did was sit alone and talk and share parts of myself that I think are really important to y'all understanding my journey as a whole. And so part of me feels like I was using the guests as a scapegoat to not confront my own pain, my own story, my own struggles, and my celebrations, right? And so as I've been away for a little bit, I had about 16 episodes the first season. The second season, I was working with a wonderful company that was helping me put out my podcast episodes. They were doing the editing, they were doing the social media marketing, all of that good stuff. But eventually I ran out of resources to be able to employ them. And so I was back to square one. And this year in 2023, there has just been so many changes, so many updates in our family life, transitions, just a lot of moving pieces. And so I haven't really had the chance to sit and do this and plan out a new season and all the topics and all the content and that kind of thing. But I found myself this year being like, going back and looking at the podcast and realizing like, oh, it was around this time in 2021 that I started the podcast. It's been around this time every year that I am called to look deeper into some parts of myself that I think would be beneficial to share with y'all. For those of you who've been following me on Instagram for a while, or for those of you who follow my newsletter, or perhaps have worked with me in some capacity, whether it's been as a birth worker or as a student or a teacher of mine. It's been a really wild ride, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's been wonderful also dabbling in music and sharing more of myself with folks through my music and through performances. But overall, what I'm really wanting and needing at this time in my life, as I'm growing and expanding and opening my heart to so much more abundance and growth and self-expression, really mastering my own self-expression, is showing up in this way, showing up face to face, which is why I'm so excited to share that these new episodes are going to be video episodes. I've been wanting to grow my YouTube channel for quite some time. Spotify now has the ability for us to upload, as creators, to upload a video podcast episodes. So this is going to be the first of many. And also, I love the idea of video because although I've done so much work on my voice and finding confidence in my voice and feeling better about the way I sound and the way that I use my words and the way that I use my voice. But I think it's time for me to start showing up more live and in person, face to face. I think the way that I express myself, the way that I show up in the world is so important to my story, and it's so necessary. It's such a necessary part of my story to physically show up here, looking the way that I do, wearing the things that I wear, showing up the way that I show up best, the way that I feel most confident and most comfortable. It's such an important part of the process of loving yourself, of unlearning toxic patterns and behaviors of self-harm and self-punishment. And today I wanted to start by talking a little bit about some of the changes that me and my family have gone through. As many of you know, we have been a homeschooling family for quite some time. I think since Corey was in TK, we've done some version of homeschooling. So whether that is homeschooling in a co-op environment with other parents, other homeschooling parents who want alternative education options, or we went through a phase where we were homeschooling at home, and then she was going to supplemental courses. She did equestrian classes for a while. She did a theater program. She had a math class called Mad Dog Math that we absolutely loved. And it was wonderful, but during the pandemic, it got really hard. Of course, like everyone, we were home, very much separate from our community, very much, not very active in social circles, and it got really lonely. And during that time, I also was pregnant. I gave birth via surrogacy during that time. And so a lot of the focus was on me and my healing and my wellness. And unfortunately, my little one grew very lonesome during that time, and it's taken quite a few months and even years to kind of recover from that and repair and recommit to my relationship with her as a single parent, right? As an unpartnered parent, I like to call myself. And so that's what I've been really focused on lately, just really repairing any mistrust that was experienced during that time. And also acknowledging that my little one's ready for change. She's ready to go to a regular school and go to school full time. And so we've been navigating that. We've been navigating all the social differences and changes that come with that. Navigating the changes in her body and all the different things that are happening in her life that are different and unique and new. And that includes the way that I run my business. That includes the way that I show up for her and for my family. On that note, with family and just relationships in general, I've gone through quite a few losses as far as different relationships, platonic relationships, friendships, really deeply rooted friendships that I really thought would last my lifetime, but for a variety of reasons, I've found myself grieving and moving through what it feels like to lose parts of my community, my support system, my village. And I've realized too that a lot of that has gone hand in hand with this journey I'm on, this reclamation journey of reclaiming the parts of myself that were feared out of me, that were scared out of me, that were shamed out of me, that told me it wasn't safe to be myself, that told me that I needed to mask or be someone else temporarily in order to be safe, in order to be accepted. And so as I've been breaking away from that through all this work that I will talk lots about during this podcast and that you can listen to in past episodes, is that the more I choose myself, the less people I have in my life. Because for the most part, when I wasn't choosing myself, when I was people pleasing and sacrificing myself for others, I was creating more of a reason for them to keep me around, right? For me to be in their circle, to be in their orbit. And now that I'm choosing myself and I'm setting, and what does that mean? What does that look like? It looks like me setting boundaries. It looks like me saying, hey, I don't like when you talk to me that way. Please don't do that again. It looks like me saying no, I'm not going to show up to events because somebody's going to be there that is going to make me feel like I need to be someone else in order to be around them without having issues. So no, I'm just not going to go. And if nobody else likes that, then meet up with me separately, take the time to hang out with me privately. That looks like me trusting my intuition and trusting my gut when it says, hey, this person is not in alignment for you. This person doesn't feel safe to you. Energetically, this person gives you a weird vibe, then just keep a distance. That goes for clients too. I've had to really learn how to use my intuitive gifts to help me determine what my next steps are in business and in life and in love. And it's like anything else, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And so I have been holding myself much more accountable to the idea that I get to choose my reality. I get to choose who I work with, who I don't work with, who I welcome into my life, welcome into my circle, welcome into my family, and who I don't, because maybe they have caused harm, caused us harm or caused people we love harm. And really sitting and sinking my heels into the discomfort that comes with setting those harsh boundaries. But they're not really harsh boundaries. They just feel that way because I have been conditioned to forgive and forget and let people, basically take advantage of my kindness and assume because I'm, someone who practices nonviolent communication, somebody who tries my best to be emotionally intelligent and mindful when I'm in relationship to others, sometimes that can be taken as like a weakness. Like there's only so much that any of us could take before we remember ourselves again and remember like, oh, that's not okay with me. Like, I don't like that. So I've been doing a lot of that. And like I said, grieving a lot of the relationships that have severed due to me stepping into myself more. On the other hand of that, it's freed up a lot of my time to pour into my art, to pour into my music, to pour into my performance, to the way that I show up in the world. And with that comes a lot of exciting updates too. Like right now I'm working on a new album. It's going to be my first album. I have about 7 songs that I'm working on right now to put out next year. So, what does that look like for me? It's like taking time out of my day to sit with my instrument, whether that's my voice, whether that's the piano, whether that's my ukulele, and just be with the music and be with the emotions that I felt when I wrote those words, and tapping into what does that feel like? What does that sound like? What does it look like? How can I express these emotions in this art form, right? And so that's what a lot of my time has gone to lately, that and writing. Many of you might or might not know that I am a writer. I've been writing since I was a little girl, writing poems, writing stories, writing my dreams down, and in college I was encouraged by one of my professors to pursue it a little more seriously because she said I had a really good voice, a good writing voice. And so I've been writing forever. But if you follow me on Instagram, you probably followed me because you read my writing, because I was writing a lot in my captions at one point. These days it's changed a lot, right? Instagram and isn't really conducive for writers because the idea is to have like the smallest amount of content possible for people to absorb and potentially replay so that you get lots of views and interactions. But I'm thinking a lot about how to share my writing in a new format, right? And right now that's looking like writing that book that I've been wanting to put out for a long time about unpartnered parenting and about how unpartnered parenting is revolutionary, and not something to be looked down upon and to feel sorry for. It's another variation of normal for a lot of people for a variety of reasons, not just divorce and not just deadbeat daddies, but so a lot of people are going into parenthood alone because of the trauma that being raised by two people with conflicting ideas about how to raise children creates, right? And so right now I'm putting a lot of work into that as well. So as you can see, my world has quite changed from being solely a birth worker and talking about birth work. And, if you've been following me on Instagram for a while, my page started as my birth work page. But over time, it's evolved as I've evolved as the multidimensional mommy, right? As somebody who has a variety of interests and callings and gifts and skills and wants to share those with y'all, wants to share those and express those in a variety of ways with the world, so that hopefully you can do the same in your life, so that hopefully you get to identify the parts of your own life where you are a multidimensional person. So with that said, I'm super excited to be back. I'm super excited to be able to be here with you live and in person. I'm going to be sharing about a variety of different topics, but mostly just sharing with you what's on my heart. All right, y'all, that's it for today. If you are enjoying the Embodiment Project, please help us keep our 5-star rating by going to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating, leave us a review. Let me know what is speaking to your heart. What are you taking from this episode? If you want to connect with me, feel free to follow me on Instagram at The Multidimensional Mommy. Mommy is spelled M-A-M-I. If you want to learn more about my workshops, classes, courses, music, feel free to go to my website at www.danellia.arechiga.com. See you next time.